Dun 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 dun. Oh, look at the friend we ran into today. Chester actually ran right over it before either one of them noticed. Woo! Watch for snakes, boys and girls.
So this is becoming kind of a common experience for Chester and I in the last couple of weeks because it's spring and all the snakes are out roaming around looking for food, looking for love. They're ready to roll. We should go to our snake expert, benchmark parent, Mrs. Perry.
Hi, I'm Kriya Perry and I'm a biologist here in Arizona, and I actually have done research with rattlesnakes. So I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about rattlesnakes because this tends to be the time of the year that they are going to be most active during the day. So really in the springtime, rattlesnakes are going to be more active between dusk and dawn. And then in the summertime, they'll kind of flip-flop. In the summertime, they're more active after dusk. At this time of the year, this is where you're most likely to see a rattlesnake if you're out hiking on the trails. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between our rattlesnakes and our non-venomous snakes. So the one that you're most likely to see on the trails is called the western diamondback rattlesnake. And they are our largest of rattlesnakes. And one of the ways that you can tell that it's a rattlesnake is if you look at the head here, it has this triangular shaped head. So if you look here at my king snake, I have a California king snake here, you can see the head is actually very rounded. And that is a big difference between our rattlesnakes and then our what we call some of our colubrid snakes. The other difference that you can see here is on the tail, they're of course going to have a rattle, and they actually have these black and white bands on the end of their tail right before the rattle. So you'll see these black and white bands down here. And then if you're lucky, you might actually see the rattle, or you might hear them rattle. That's another way that you can tell that you've got a rattlesnake. And then, of course, our western diamondback rattlesnake has that very distinct tan diamond pattern on the back with a white and black outlining it. So if you see a rattlesnake on the trail and you're out hiking, you may not be able to see the tail and you may not be able to see the rattle, especially if they're coiled up, but you very likely will see the head. And so if you see that triangular shaped head, you know you're probably dealing with a rattlesnake. So again, they're going to be most active between March and October. And in the spring and the fall, it's going to be in between dawn and dusk. So they're going to be out during the day. And then in the summertime, it'll be between dusk and dawn. And in the wintertime, right, we just came out of winter, they're going to be primarily underground. So they're in torpor. And in the spring and the summer is when the young are born. So that's when you're also more likely to run into, especially in the summertime, a juvenile rattlesnake. And the moms can actually have up to 12 young born, and they do give live birth. A lot of people don't know that, but they give live birth, which is kind of interesting. And they're really great at blending in with their surroundings. So we call this crypsis or camouflage. And I'm going to ask you to just take a moment to see if you can find the rattlesnake in this picture. This is one that we were actually tracking. And we had a radio transmitter in it, and we could hear it pinging, and the pinging was very loud, and we knew it was right there, but we couldn't see it. So you can see that they're really amazing at camouflaging themselves in their environment. And so this is one of the reasons why when you are hiking, you're going to want to stay on the trails. Going off of the trails, and especially walking in areas where there's a lot of debris, walking through bushes, are going to be where you're most likely to accidentally step on a rattlesnake. So again, this is another picture of a rattlesnake, and it's right underneath a bush. And you can see they really are very difficult to see when they're all coiled up there. I actually did some research with rattlesnakes, and I had the unique opportunity of tracking them. And again, most of the time when we would track them, we would see them right underneath a bush. And you can see when we actually handle the snakes, there you see all those crazy videos out there where people are grabbing venomous snakes by the tail. And that's something that just should never be done. When we handle the snakes to process them for research, we always safely encourage their head into a tube. And again, I had a lot of training to determine what size tube was the right size for the rattlesnake and how to actually use the snake stick with them. But you can see that we safely would handle them after their head was in the snake tube. And then we could do things like weigh them and measure them and tell whether or not they were male or female and count the rattles. But again, you should never ever try to handle a snake. And especially, I again have had quite a bit of training to be able to determine what's a rattlesnake and what's not. But if you see a snake on the trail, you should definitely just let it be. You don't want to pick up a snake, especially if you're unable to identify snakes. It's not worth the risk. So here you can see this is actually what we call the home range of a snake. And snakes tend to have what we call a home range. And that home range is basically the area where they like to hang out the most. And for you, a home range would be like, where do you like to go to the grocery store? Where do you like to eat typically? All of the areas around your house that you're going to spend the majority of your time in. And that's what a home range is for a snake. And snakes do have home ranges. I keep going past this one, but if you look here, this was actually the home range analysis that we did for our snakes that we were tracking on campus. And so we actually had Lola, which was in the red here, Ozzy, which was in the yellow, and then in bright yellow was Zoe and Phoebe and Coco. And Lola was our big female, and Ozzy was our big male, and then Zoe, Coco, and Phoebe were the offspring. So they were much smaller, and that's why their home ranges were smaller. But those are going to be the areas, and snakes do have home ranges, and they have areas where they like to hang out, where they spend most of their time hunting, feeding, and mating, and carrying out their day-to-day activities. So we're living with snakes in Arizona. Rattlesnakes are here to stay, and we actually really want rattlesnakes to stay here. If we didn't have rattlesnakes in Arizona, then we wouldn't have something to control our small mammal population. And our small mammal population can actually be kind of our pests if we let them get out of control. They can carry disease, they can get into our houses and eat our food, and they can actually cause quite a bit of problems if you have gardens and things like that in your backyard. So having rattlesnakes are actually a really beneficial thing for the desert and for our environment. So we're here to live with rattlesnakes. What can we do to limit our contact, and what to do if we see one, and what to do if you're bitten? First off, you want to eliminate any of their food sources in your backyard. So you don't want to have a bird feeder on the ground that's going to attract rodents, and that's going to attract birds, which are their primary prey items. So anything that you might have, even it's citrus trees, where if you end up leaving a bunch of the old citrus on the ground, those can attract roof rats, and that can again be a problem because that's going to bring in your rattlesnakes. If you bring in their prey item, you bring in the rattlesnakes. So your first goal is to try to eliminate the food. Then you can eliminate their shelter. So fill in any rodent holes that you might have. Keep your bushes trimmed back, and remove any piles of wood or brush that you may have in your backyard. You can also try to limit the access of the rattlesnakes into your backyard. Most of us here have the solid block walls, so we have solid footing underneath, and then most of us have a lip on the wall. Again, if you have those block walls, you have that as well. The biggest challenge is if you have a gate. And if you have a gate, this is where the rattlesnakes can sneak in your backyard. So you want to seal up your gate. Also, if you have drainage holes, you can put some screening over your drainage holes. And that's another way to keep those rattlesnakes out of your backyard. To reduce your accidental encounters on the trail and in the wild, just make sure that you're very aware of where you put your hands and your feet. So you obviously don't want to blindly put your hand in a bush or down a burrow. You also don't want to just walk blindly through the bushes. And this is where I say stay on the trails, because the rattlesnakes are much easier to see on the trails and they're less likely to be on the trails. They're more likely to be coiled up in a bush, and let me tell you, after tracking them, they are very difficult to see and they don't always rattle at you. Sometimes I would be just within a foot of the snake and it wouldn't rattle at me. So you can't always depend upon it rattling at you first. And then make sure that you bring a flashlight at night. If you hear or see a snake, just simply slowly move back in the opposite direction. Make sure that you tell others that are on the trail that there's a rattlesnake ahead. Make sure to keep your pets away. This is a good reason to keep your dogs on the leash. And then really just watch and appreciate and give the rattlesnake the respect that it deserves, right? If you back up from that snake on the trail, it, again, is going to see you as a big potential threat, potential predator. So as soon as it feels safe to do so, it is going to hightail it off the trail and tuck into a bush. So, if you're lucky enough, you just back up and you can watch them just kind of slowly mosey off the trail and, again, tuck into a bush. If for some reason you do have a rattlesnake that's in your backyard and you have young children and you really see it as a threat to your children, what you can do is you can call some of the local snake groups. And one of them is Phoenix Herp Society. There are private companies that do this, and you can even call the fire department, and I believe they'll come out and bucket your snake for you and remove the snake. What do you do in the really rare instance that you might actually get a bite? And so the first thing you're going to do is remain calm. Remove any watches, any jewelry that you might have on your hands and your wrists. Or again, if you have a boot, you remove your boot. Immobilize the site, so wherever you were bitten, below your heart. Decrease your activity as much as possible. And then seek medical help. Your very main goal is to actually seek medical help. Get to the hospital as quickly as you can so that you can get that anti-venom. That's the big goal if you're bitten by a rattlesnake. The things that you don't want to do: don't apply ice, don't make any cuts or do the cut and suck, don't constrict the area with a tourniquet, don't take any medicine or alcoholic beverages if you're an adult, and don't try to catch the snake. Again, your main goal is to get to the hospital as quickly as you can. And so this is actually just a picture of me releasing one of our rattlesnakes that we did track on campus. And these are some resources for you. I believe my screen cuts off the last one, which is probably the one that's most interesting for you if you have rattlesnakes in your backyard. It is the Encounter Hotline, and you can call that number at 480-894-1625. So again, rattlesnakes are here. They're an amazing creature. I love to talk about rattlesnakes. So please just give them that respect that they deserve, give them that space they deserve, and appreciate them. They're a really amazing creature and pretty cool to see out in the wild. So take care and be safe out there.
Thanks, Mrs. Perry. The more we know about our friends, the animals in the desert, the safer we can be when we're out enjoying the great outdoors. Have a good week, guys.